in our boxing analyst, Teddy Atlas. Welcome. Good to see you in person.
It's good to see you guys, and it's good to have Skip within jabbing range.
Okay, so you got your right ready for him, huh? Okay, listen, here's the question, Stephen A. Too bad you're missing it. You're safe there. He won't beat you up.
No, it's all right.
Teddy loves me. He would never hit me. He'd hit Skip though.
Okay.
He would. I agree.
All right.
I'm on my best behavior. You're on.
Be careful.
I got love for Skip too. I just can't reach him all the time.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about better owner, Floyd or Oscar, in your opinion.
Oh.
Or neither. That's still an option.
Yeah. Look, I think that it's the right direction. You're looking for minorities. You're looking for people that are involved in sports, that are passionate about sports. I think those are all the right direction. I think that obviously De La Hoya has a little edge because he's already had some involvement in a soccer team. Yeah. So, you know, it's not just about passion. It's not just about being a minority. It's not just about having money. It's about having the structure, the infrastructure, knowing how to run a professional franchise like this. This is a big business, you know. And so you have to have people around you. They would have people around them, obviously. De La Hoya already has some of that structure around them with Peter Schaefer and those guys, Richard Schaefer, I should say, and those guys with the businesses that he already runs, or if he doesn't run them, they run them. But I think it's interesting with Floyd. You know, I like Floyd. I like him, and he's fun. And the only thing is, let's speak honestly, Floyd would have to stop some of his habits. You know, he likes to bet on the NBA, you know, so they don't play around with that. So the first thing is that they would obviously have to do a research of Floyd and feel comfortable, and they being the people that make those decisions, the other owners and the powers that be, to make sure that Floyd was not going to be involved in any extracurricular activities such as gambling, which is no problem in Vegas. He lives in Vegas. He does what's legal. But if he's an owner of a team, it's a problem. So, and I'm sure that he'd be able to do that. Anyone who's disciplined enough to get in the ring and do what Floyd does, they're disciplined enough to rearrange their life and do what they want to do in those kind of ways because they have to do those things. But again, Floyd doesn't have the infrastructure that De La Hoya has with Richard Schaefer, that they already own a soccer team. He doesn't have that. He'd have to make sure he had that infrastructure around him, which I'm sure he could put it together. But he'd have to have the professional people to run the team, not just the passion to be a sports owner.
All right, Stephen A. Floyd, Oscar, the pair, neither?
Neither. Oscar De La Hoya is synonymous with sports but not basketball, and he's had his well-notable problems in the past. And considering the fact that you're just dealing with the Donald Sterling issue, I think you want somebody with a relatively flawless education that you're going to invite in. That's not to knock Oscar De La Hoya. I'm just giving you the attitude that the Board of Governors for the NBA, consisting of the 29 owners left after Donald Sterling is exiled, along with the commissioner, the attitude that they will have. That's number one. Number two, Teddy Atlas is absolutely right about Floyd's habits. I have no doubt that Floyd can change whatever he needs to change. He's certainly not doing anything illegal, but he does like to gamble. He brags about it. He loves to win gambling. And that doesn't fly in sports, and it's not going to fly with the NBA. If it did, the NBA would already have had a team in Las Vegas. They don't, and there's a reason for that. And so we have to take that into consideration as well. The other part about Floyd that I would say wouldn't work is that this whole thing he's got going on with Bob Arum, that's one man you can't work things out with. And because of it, we've been waiting years for a fight between himself and Manny Pacquiao, even though I'm on the record saying that's not entirely Floyd's fault. Floyd picked up the phone, offered him $40 million. That's double what Manny's made anywhere else. He said get $20 million to you cash in 48 hours. Manny still turned it down. But still in all, the primary hindrance and roadblock to a Pacquiao-Floyd Mayweather Jr. fight has been his relationship with Bob Arum. Well, what about when you have to work with 29 other owners and you have to vibe with them in a fashion to get things done? You know, I mean, Floyd is incredibly confident in his decision-making ability, some of the decisions that he makes and his thoughts or whatever, and playing the political game. He knows how to do it. He can do it when necessary, but that's a lot to ask from somebody who is ultra confident as he is. And so the combination of that, along with his affinity for gambling, I would say no, it won't work.
I would say no on both counts, on Oscar and especially on Floyd. And forgive me for this, Floyd, but it is laughable you would even suggest you could own the Clippers after what we just went through with Donald Sterling. Does anyone but me remember the Ustream rant of a few years back by one Floyd Mayweather Jr., in which he spewed racial slurs about Manny Pacquiao? I wish I could detail them, but I won't subject our audience to them, but they were some really low blows. So we would go from frying pan into the fire. And I'll just throw this out because you need somebody with a track record to own a franchise of this magnitude. Floyd did have his 90 days in jail for his domestic abuse, his domestic violence that he served not too long ago. So you're just disqualified. Seriously, in a vacuum, do I think that Floyd could run the franchise and make really good decisions? I do.
Sure.
I think he has a high sports intellect. I would trust that. But I don't trust what he's made of. So you're out. I'm sorry. I can't even take this seriously.
Your response?
I can't argue with that.
Yeah, you can't argue.
I mean, you know me. I love me some Floyd Mayweather Jr.
You do?
You know, I think he's the best boxer in the world. I love his skill set. I love what he brings to the world of sports. I just love everything about him from a sports perspective. But when you bring those other things into consideration, I'm not going to sit up here and be a phony and deny that. The fact of the matter is you make very valid points.
If I'm sitting in the jury and I'm listening to these two lawyers on both sides of me that just made their cases, they made good cases. I mean, they did. I'm a boxing guy, you know, and I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. But we're in a world that influences more than just opinions and our likes. It influences people's livelihoods, and it influences a very large business in this country that makes billions of dollars. So you have to have the right people in there. De La Hoya has had problems personally in his life.
He has?
Controlling himself, quite honestly. Even though fighters control themselves more than anybody else in the ring.
Right.
I mean, really. But outside the ring, he had problems controlling himself personally. And that's something that you would have to be cognizant of, and you would have to be concerned about. And Floyd, as both of you and Stephen both said, has had those problems in his own controlling areas. And again, I think you said it the right way. We're coming from one situation, and with the situation with Floyd, look, he didn't mean it in racial terms.
Sure.
A guy, a fighter, especially a black fighter, thinks differently when he says those things. He's thinking, I don't have no racial, animosity in me. He really, but he thought he was being funny. He thought he was being clever, and he thought that he was above the fray, that he could say those things and be allowed to say those things. And you're wrong. You should never say those things.
Well, in the context
and they have
of your
impact.
sport, okay, but if you're talking about owning the Los Angeles Clippers, you're out.
Yeah, no way.
Yeah, it doesn't cross over.
Yeah.
All right, Teddy Atlas, you're sticking around after the break, correct? Folks, before we go to break, we'll just say it's the fight everyone wants to see, Floyd Mayweather versus Pacquiao. But this is what Mayweather had to say of Pacquiao after his last fight. I don't see the same pop in Pacquiao shots. Once again, I'm not saying this guy is doing anything, but I don't see the same snap in his shots. He's getting tired when he wasn't getting tired before. I'm seeing something totally different. Whereas me, I'm still sharp. I'm still smart. I'm not getting fatigued. I wasn't getting fatigued from the beginning, and those are the things that I see. I don't know if you guys see it, but that's what I see. He's just giving his analysis. He's an astute boxing man.
Well, I see that Skip's definitely not on PEDs.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
How do you know that for sure?
Stephen might be.
Perhaps.
I
wish.
He's bulked up a little bit. But look, I'll get right to the point. I mean, I don't have a problem getting right to the point usually, especially in boxing business. If you don't get to the point, you get knocked out. And I understand what he's saying, and I agree with him.
Whoa.
Yeah. And look, Floyd is a guy that you don't agree with all the time, obviously, but I agree with him. I picked Bradley the last time, which I know that my man Skip has been very polite and very gentlemanly, not getting on me yet.
I wasn't even going to bring it up.
But I think fair is fair. When you give, you can take. I give, I can take. I was wrong. And I appreciate Skip being a gentleman and not bringing it up. But the reason I picked Bradley is I thought that Pacquiao was off the juice. Now, look, I have no proof. You know, let's get this straight before the haters come out. I have, and say that I don't like Filipino people. You know, I have no proof. I think that Pacquiao is a heck of a fighter, and he's been a heck of a fighter for the last decade. And he's been involved in some terrific fights. But he was bigger. He was stronger. He moved up from a weight where usually jockeys are involved in, on horses, 105 pounds. He moved up to 112, 118, 126, 130, 135, 147, 100. I mean, he just kept moving up, and his body kept staying with him. I mean, really, it's a little unusual. I mean, we're intelligent people. At least we purport ourselves to think we're intelligent. Let's be honest about what we see. Doesn't mean that I know he's doing it. I don't. Unless I see him put a needle in his arm, I don't know. But I know that his body continued to get bigger, to go along with his increase. It didn't look like he was too small. And I know that his power continued to be there. Usually your power doesn't stay there that many advances in weight classes. That many. Yeah. His power stayed there. His speed stayed there. Usually you get bigger, you get a little slower, unless you're Stephen A. You know, he stays fast all the time. But usually you get a little slower. He didn't get slower. He might have got faster, but he didn't get slower. And the size was there, and the power was there. Since 2009, he hasn't knocked anyone out. Now, why? I mean, you can make a million reasons why. Maybe he's making too much money and he's let off the gas pedal. I don't know. Maybe that's it. Less urgency. Maybe. Maybe that's why Bradley didn't perform well. He's made a lot of money in his last few fights, and maybe he didn't have the urgency because he didn't look good in that fight. I don't know how much of that last fight was Pacquiao looking so good and Bradley looking so bad. I think it was a combination. But I do agree with Floyd, and I have to say it, that I had the same questions, that this guy looked like he used to be on the juice. And again, I didn't know it other than what my eye test is telling me. How does he keep going up these weight classes? His body keeps conforming with him, and his speed stays there, and his power stays there. So I think that it's a fair point. Has he not knocked anyone out to 2009 because he's not on the juice anymore? I don't know. Right. I mean, it's not like he's suddenly fighting Godzilla. I mean, he's fighting the same kind of guys, you know, that he was knocking out before.
Stephen A., he doesn't pass the eye test for Teddy. Something's not right. He doesn't know for sure. Your take.
He's never passed the eye test for me.
Oh, okay.
Of course I agree with Teddy.
Okay.
Of course I agree with Floyd Mayweather Jr., the best boxer on the planet Earth, by the way. Let me say something right now. Let me be very, very clear. Floyd's analysis of both Pacquiao and Bradley was spot on. Bradley does look like he's in the weight room too much. He does look like he's more interested in how he looks when he steps on the scale as opposed to when he steps in the ring the following night. Manny Pacquiao doesn't look like he's got the same pop on his punches, the same snap on his punches. And he does look a little bit more fatigued as the fight wanes, as opposed to how he used to look just a few years ago. So there's no doubt about that. And I don't think that Floyd is wrong in saying what he's saying, because when you're talking about the sport of boxing, please understand something. When you saw what Pacquiao did to Miguel Cotto with that TKO, I think it was like the 11th round he did him in. The kind of beating that Miguel Cotto took where his family ended up leaving ringside because they couldn't stay there and watch the bloody mess that he was. Do you think that Miguel Cotto has that done to him by the Manny Pacquiao that we've been seeing, Teddy? I don't think so. Not the one that we've been seeing recently. So all I'm saying is in the sport of boxing, one fight could potentially devastate you for the rest of your career because of the kind of beating that you take. And what Floyd has always been saying is, I know what I'm seeing, and I know the sport of boxing. I don't care what any of y'all say. All I want is a fair fight. And at the time, what he was saying was, I don't think it would have been a fair fight against Manny Pacquiao because I think he's on something. And now we're seeing the dissipated level of skill and Manny Pacquiao. And we're saying, well, you know what? Floyd looks like he had a point more and more every single day. That's all I got to say.
That's all he has to say. Skip has something to say. We will talk about it.
I am about to counterpunch.
You can't
hold that thought.
Hold that thought. We're going to take
please.
a break. Welcome back to First Take, everyone. Manny Pacquiao's pop is gone, so says Mayweather. Skip Bayless, your take.
In fairness to Manny Pacquiao, and fairness is not a word we use on the show much when we talk about Manny Pacquiao, at least when Stephen A. Smith speaks about him, it is possible that Manny Pacquiao has recommitted to his spirituality, to his faith a little more lately, that his heart and soul is not in punishing his opponents the way it was back to 2009 and before. It is possible that he has refocused more on his political career since Floyd Mayweather has been running and running and running from him, and he might have lost a little interest in knocking people out. He put on a clinic against Timothy Bradley. He hit him a bunch of times in an iron jaw that is Timothy Bradley's. Bradley took a lot of shots and took them and stood up. But in the end, Floyd Mayweather has often in the past suggested that Manny was juicing, and now I think he's suggesting that Manny is clean. So I'm suggesting, Floyd, why are you still afraid to fight Manny? If he's clean now, if he's lost his pop, let's make this fight happen now, because he's there for the taking. You're what, 42 or 3 years old now? I lose track. Fight him. Let's do it, I don't know, next 3 or 4 months. Why not? Because clearly now you could knock him out. You can't knock anybody else out because you don't have much of a pop in your punch either, but you surely could knock out this man who's off the juice, so to speak. So I'm saying, what is the problem now, Floyd? Why not fight?
Well, first of all, Skip, you know, Bradley doesn't have an iron shin. He's got a heart that's as big as the outdoors, but he was on the floor 3 or 4 times against Provatnikov. So Provatnikov, which a lot of people don't even know who he is, he came out of nowhere, a Russian fighter, and he almost knocked out Bradley. And Pacquiao wasn't able to do that. So he doesn't have an iron chin. So you still have to think about what has Pacquiao lost. There's no doubt about that. Look, is that a fair point that you bring up, that he's distracted, that he's been eroded by his problems? He's had family problems. He's had marital problems. He's suddenly found religion. He's involved in politics. He also owes a lot of money. The government's going after him. He owes a lot of taxes. So those are things that can distract you. There's no doubt about it. But from a physical realm that we're looking at, he looks different. I mean, really, it's the common sense test. It's the eye test. He looks different. Beyond that, it's up for opinion, which we're throwing opinion all over the place here. But, I mean, I think that as far as not making a fight, it's not Floyd being afraid of him. Look, I'm going to give you a little something towards your point, where Floyd cares about his legacy. That's important. Keeping that 0 is important. It means money to him. It means things to his family. It means things for, as I said, his legacy. But he would make the fight. I think it's a matter of, it's Bob Arum and him hate each other. They can't get together. Both would have to give something. I think now Pacquiao would have to give more because he's been diminished by that loss to Marquez. He got knocked out flat where he was snoring. So
he got robbed against Bradley, but it's still a loss.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's been diminished a little. So Floyd has a little bit more power. So somebody has to move. And Arum ain't moving. He's 85 years old. You talked about Floyd being 42. Well, he's really only 38. But Arum's about 85. And Arum ain't moving. And so Arum's not going to give anything. So that fight's going to be very hard to have. And both guys have options. It's not like they're on a food line. Both guys can go out there and make millions of dollars with other people. So there's no urgency to have to make that fight. And if there's no urgency and both sides hate each other and both sides don't want to make concessions, guess what? They don't care about the public. They care about control and they care about their bank accounts. And their bank accounts are still pretty good.
All right, Stephen A.
And let's keep in mind, one of those people who cares about their bank account is Manny Pacquiao, who needs Floyd to make the kind of money he wants to make. But he's got to get himself separated from Arum in order to make the fight happen. Skip doesn't want to accept the reality of business in the boxing world. This is what it is. It's not like, you know, with the UFC, what did Dana White come in studio just last week and explain to us? All his fighters are under one promotional arm. That is of the UFC, which is why he's able to give you the fights that you want when you want them. That's not the case in boxing. And everyone wants to bring up how Floyd won't move, but nobody wants to bring up how Arum won't move and that Pacquiao is controlled by Arum. So in the end, don't blame Floyd for that. You know, look at Arum too. And after you do that, all we have to go on is who looks like the better fighter. 45 have tried.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
45 have failed.
Yeah, and none of those are Manny Pacquiao. That's the point.
Floyd, Money, Mayweather.
Yeah, and you know what?
Say what you will, but it is what
I
it
can
is.
see Stephen carrying, pretty
Ring
soon
cards,
carrying,
yeah.
no, not ring cards, belts. Belts in the ring,
Yes.
belts.
Oh, let me tell you, Teddy,
I'll bring you
I
in
will
the
go
corner
on the
with me.
record.
I'll bring
I
you
will
in
go
the
on the
corner
record
with
and
me.
say this.
All right,
I'll
kids,
come
we
back
gotta-
to say, I'll come
we got
back to
30
say,
seconds
Floyd
left.
Mayweather
Sure.
champion.
Ask
Just
me to
so
carry
you
his
know.
belt
Atlas,
to the
thank
ring,
you
I would
so
do it.
much for
I
joining
would do
us.
it.
Next time you can have this debate
I know
with
you
us here.
will.
We'll be back in just a few moments. Teddy, you can hang out next time all show.
Thank you.
I didn't think.